Race 5 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup in the valley. Down below us is the city of Innsbruck. In 1964 and 76, it held the Winter Games, and high above, outside the little hamlet of Igls, is the Olympic bob track. Hello everybody, welcome back to our final race pre-Christmas. The European Championships also in this race. Martin Haven, John Morgan trackside watching the action at one of the oldest artificially iced tracks in the business.
Yeah, Martin, this is the first track to be used for bobsled and luge at an Olympic Games in 1976. And it's a short track by what we're used to. Melbardis and Drieskens have the start record. And long straightaway, get in, get down, get around this first curve with no change of direction. So important to be so quiet in your steering here. You must let the gravity take over, the acceleration. And no mistakes allowed up here. Curve 3, 4, 5. You do see some mistakes, like right there, the pilot sled hit, POV sled hit the right wall. Now into Kreisel. This big whip around, this was the first Kreisel ever built. You exit underneath where you go in. You can see that right there. Now curve 8. Real challenge to set you up for 9, because 9, pivotal part of the track. You want to accelerate here into the big curve 10. Sweeping left, 3.5, 4 Gs. Now it's three-quarter combination. This is where all the speed is. Change of direction of the sleds, 75 miles an hour. Through the finish curve, up. Finish line right there. Braking stretch. Braking stretch is tricky here. Friedrich and Margus, track record last year. They know all about how to win here. Going to be pretty interesting.
Big field of sleds as well. Our World Cup points leader in two-man is Justin Cripps, just ahead of teammate Chris Spring. The Canadians are killing it in two-man and four-man this year. Nico Walter also looking very strong, although four-man has traditionally been his better discipline. He started the season with a bang and has continued on that trajectory. 26 sleds in the field in this last race pre-Christmas. Francesco Friedrich there, the triple now world champion. Double world champion last year because he won in 2 and 4. He's now a 4-time two-man world champion. And he will be one of the men to beat. Friedrich is undefeated on this track since Stephen Holcomb won in the 2013-14 season, the last man to win that wasn't Francesco. Nico Walter won the season opener, and he's continued that good form in two-man and four-man. Oskars Melbardis won two-man medal this season so far, and he's still trying to find the form that he had a couple of years ago before that back injury. Well, our start list kicks off with Russia's Maxim Angenov and then Markus Treichel of Austria. Final one of the 26 sleds will be Ivo de Bruin of the Netherlands. 20 fastest go through into the first heat, from the first heat into the second heat. And there is going to be quite a battle to make the cut here. There's a number of sliders here who haven't made the cut in recent years, so there is definitely some jeopardy. Race 5, the BMW IBSF Men's two-man skeleton World Cup gets underway with Maxim Angenov and his brakeman Mikhail Mordasov. Angenov, 26th in last year's race. There are 26 sleds here today, but there was over 30 in last year's Igls race, the last of the European campaign.
21st in the first race, 17th in Whistler, 15th in Park City, then 15th in Whistler, 17th last week in Winterberg.
Angenov starting 5.20. Start record is 4.96. We've not got within a tenth of any of our start records in bobsleigh so far. And even the skeleton records sort of came under attack. In fact, the women tied the start record in the second heat, who went on to win, Stephanie Schneider and Annie Dracek. Angenov, though, is going to struggle to make the cut here.
Well, the pivotal part of the track, the exit of 9 to 10.
2 17ths and a 15th place, as well as failing to make the cut in the season opener in Lake Placid. We had double two-man weekend in Lake Placid. Didn't make the cut in the first heat, 17th in the second. What's that, a 52.41? 51.25 is the track record. I think if you're within 52.5 seconds, you should make the race. Anjanov might be struggling a little, as might teammate Alexei Stilnev.
He's the rabbit. He's got the best ice to work with, and we're going to see a lot of these wonderful pictures. And watch the brakeman's big meat hooks come up, cohesive motion. Then he's got to get down and fit himself into that sled, and then down here it's fast. Bottom runner looks like it was airborne down there. Speed of only 75.6.
Yeah, only. We're going to see a lot of action down at the bottom of the track. Next up, Marcus Treichel. Ekimini Bassi, his brakeman. Treichel 31st in last year's two-man race here.
Marcus still trying to get his feet wet here in the World Cup. Spent most of the time on the Europa Cup. Speed, track of that speed, a lot to do with. One thing is to push the bobsled. Then you have to get in and get around that first curve, and then that speed trap's about 100 meters in. So you could have the best start time, but enter the sled and have a bad first curve and not have the best velocity on curve 1. 1400's up. That's pretty good for him over the Russian, especially starting 300's better than the Russian, which that's not bad. Speed 102.6.
Well, if there's track he knows well, this will be the one. Is where he started to drive.
Brand new Walder sled. He's got a brand new four-man also. Coaches like that. They beat Andrianov, the Russian, who's, you know, in the top 15, 18 of the World Cup Tour.
Yeah, beat him by a tenth of a second. So
that's a scalp for him.
Yeah, that encourages him.
And it gives him a chance to make the cut.
Yeah, no question.
So now we got to guess, what is the cut time going to be?
All right, I do reckon 52 and a half. Yeah, 52 and a half seconds you should be in, unless we see some really impressive speed later. Again, little high on the exit.
Watch the back end. Oh, the little air there looks like on the exit to the take-on. Watch the heads. So if you see those heads slap like that, boy, you can see a little bit of the brakeman back there at the high-speed part of the track. You shouldn't see anything of the brakeman's shoulders.
Third starter is Bruce Tasker of Great Britain with Joel Fearon behind him, 12th in last year's two-man race.
This should be pretty impressive start here from the twosome that were 4th in this track at the World Championships in 2015. The best British finish in 50 years.
You need real sprinter speed here. Joel Fearon's got that. Look at the low heel action. Man who set the third fastest ever 100-meter time by a British athlete last summer or summer before, 5:12.
I thought I'd see a little bit better out of him than that.
Well, what about the velocity out of the first corner? 31.4 miles an hour.
That's pretty impressive.
That is good.
That's Joel Fearon, one of the fastest men in Great Britain.
Yeah.
Joel, 2 sons at home, Simon and David. Hello to them if they're watching.
Midlands boy, born in Coventry, just down the road from me.
Real high there in Kreisel.
Kept a nice even line and eased it off on the exit. 200s in front of Marcus Treichel.
Spoke to...
Little clatter off 9. Big high sweeping line off 10 and then drill it down through 11.
Time back. Oh, the brakeman, you could see Joel's head back there. Rolling around, so this
half a mile an hour slower than the Austrian at 52.39. They come flying through the station.
Spoke to Lee Johnson. Lee Johnson said that he really thinks that 4th place finish a couple years ago from Bruce, you know, then he's on the World Cup Tour only getting 4, 5, 6 runs a week. He said that might have been a hindrance to his development. Because big expectations for Bruce Tasker and Joel Fearon after that 4th place finish here on this track at the World Championships. And Bruce has had a few crashes this year.
He's using an ex-German sled.
There's some,
yeah, big height, 11 to 12 crossover. So he keeps it low out of 11, but bumps the wall, gets pushed into the middle of 12. There's Lee Johnson, the coach. Next up is Great Britain's Brad Hall, 24th place in last year's race. He's got Nick Gleeson behind him.
He's the new guy to the team this year, right?
Well, he's been in 2 or 3 years. In fact, he was on social media last week, showed some of the burns that he got in a crash in Innsbruck. Oh, driver's handle has stayed out.
5:09, best start. That's surprising for them to beat Tasker and Joel Fearon.
Well, Brad Hall has got so much stronger, hasn't he, after that gash on the hand. He cut the back of his hand, sliced all his tendons open last year, and really struggled to be able to put any weight onto the push bar.
And won his first ever World Cup medal this year in 4-man bobsledding.
Yeah, the end of the North American leg was a real high point for British bobsledding in the last 15 years, pretty much.
That's
great
good
exit
lines there, 102. That's great speed too.
Well, Brad really starting to come of age. Gap's coming down though. Only 300s in front. 121.0.
Right, might be the first tie of the day.
I think he's going to be in the red. He is by 600s.
Marcus Treichel took advantage of that early start. I'm saying now that 52.31 is going to be at least in the top 20.
Well, both British sleds comfortably outstarted him and then lost speed down the ice, and then you have to think, okay, what about the runners that they're running?
4 sleds, 1,000 separation.
Yep.
Innsbruck, Igls at its best right there.
Absolutely right, no question about that.
Transition, ooh, big skid there. That's where he lost all his speed. We saw a lot of the similar lines. Look at that.
Yeah, really
came off late, and then he Robin Hooded it, and then he's got a skid going all the way into the finish. So green numbers to the red in the last 70, 100 meters.
Right, I'll take it back. It was that panic steering down at the bottom that robbed him of that chance. Roman Heinrich made his 2-man World Cup debut as a driver for France here last year, and his brakeman, Lionel Lefebvre, making his first ever World Cup start on the back handles.
Lionel is a discus thrower, and he looks like one. That beard and the build, and the drivers, when the brakeman gets in before the driver, that's not good. 5:22, not a good start. And this young French pilot faces a lot of uphill struggles.
Yeah, bought his own sled. In fact, his dad did, out of his inheritance, so they can enjoy it together. Based in La Plana, where they're racing in Europa Cup at the moment this weekend.
Surprised he didn't go down there.
Well, in fact, his teammate Loic Kosteg is, because you get 2 races in a weekend, and Loic figured there'd be more chance of getting points there than there is in a packed field here.
Still 5th. 102.9 is excellent speed.
Yeah. 76 miles an hour,
122.4
quicker than anybody else, flying at the bottom.
Catch him on the bottom? I don't know, but this is a good speed run.
Third of the line.
Still, the speed on the bottom part of the track was very impressive. Is this a Bruno Mejon? What is this?
No, this is a BTC.
BTC sled?
Yeah.
The colors of La Plana prominently displayed.
And now he's not funding himself. Now he's in the World Cup because he's graduated, made enough points to justify it. The Federation are actually helping support him as well.
Didn't have very good speed here at the start. A lot to do with, look at the drive. The brakeman's in, the driver's still trying to, look at that.
Yeah.
Great slow motion pictures from our crew to show that his.
And I think that's why it was rocking, because he caught it with his foot when he was trying to get in, hit the cow.
And he didn't have great speed around that first 100 meters.
Marcus Treichel leads 5 down in our third 26-strong field. First heat of the 2-man bobsleigh. And here's the man everybody needs to beat. It's Francesco Friedrich. If you have the fastest driver and the fastest brakeman, you tend to win here. The last 3 years, they've proved that.
Should be low 5s or maybe even 497, 98, these two. 03.
Won his third 2-man world championships here in 2015.
50.9.
Silver last week.
51.1.
Yeah. Silver last week was his first World Cup medal of the season.
Yeah. He said he really needs to find some speed in this brand new Walner sled. It's the second different brand new Walner sled he's used this year. Really high in the first part of Kreisel.
Keeps the exit nice and late there out of Kreisel.
Huge lead like we'd expect.
Well, he should be the man to beat here.
103.2. Whoa, take a bite of that. That's quick.
Bad hefty hand.
Almost tipped over. Did not have the same speed as the Frenchman.
Skid in the final corner.
Did not have the same speed. This is the question mark that they've had on these Walner sleds, is the speed of the bottom. Look where they stop, too. Everybody else has this problem stopping up the end of the track. He stops right there.
Yeah, Marcus knows what he's doing, no question.
But the speed of the bottom part of the track killed him last week in Wittenberg. And he said this is going to be the final test for him in his Walner sled. high there on 10.
Almost in the woodwork in 10, really looping it round. But then in 11, the 11-12 transition is really ropey.
Really late there. And how's that for a skid? You don't expect this out of the 4-time world champion who last year in 7 events, World Cups and then the 8th World Championships, first and second in every event, now he's struggling to get on the podium.
Dramatic stuff from our race leader, Francesco Friedrich. Nick Polagnato with Lascelles Brown behind him. King going into yet another Olympic Games with Polagnato. And the Canadians looking as though they will qualify 3 men's sleds for the Games.
And deservingly so. Polagnato was one of the leaders in last week's. He was the leader of last week's World Cup event in Winterberg. And he's got this 43-year-old stud on the back. Let's see what kind of velocity. Oh, 50.6. It's pretty good.
That is excellent speed at the start.
100s back, but of course he was 500s back at the start. And half a kilometer down in the speed trap.
It's going to be interesting to see how far the gap gets out and then how much it closes when they get to the labyrinth, where Friedrich was just slapping all over the place.
Here he comes back. He stopped the bleeding. You can catch Friedrich here. 103.2 Friedrich had. 103.3. Better speed. Here he goes. He could catch him here at the bottom.
Nice late exit. Can he hold it together? 122 Friedrich.
No, doesn't have the speed Friedrich does.
But he's 1500s behind. He's going to be in second place. 40. He did close on Friedrich at the bottom.
Well, Friedrich was sloppy. Remember?
Yeah, absolutely.
Skidded between 12 and 13.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heavy. But again, Friedrich, that Walder sled did not have the speed on the bottom like we've seen him have when he's won 4 consecutive world championships. We're going to see that sled coming up. Benny Maier's driving it.
Yeah.
Not as high as Friedrich in 10.
Yeah, Friedrich was up in the frost, though.
A little late, but they'll skid there. Look, you can see that. Try to get the rhythm down here in 11, 12, and 13. Much better lines than we saw out of Francisco Friedrich. And then here,
still has a big skid. Watch as it goes away from us. The skid's already happening there.
Look at the way that sled rocks back and forth.
Yeah, those corners was designed for sleds at 1960s and 70s speeds, not at 2016, 17. Next up, Chris Spring of Canada. Race winner in 2-man in Whistler. And Spring, second in the World Cup standings to teammate Justin Cripps.
13th in this race last year.
He's had gold and silver in the last 2 races in 2-man.
Boy, start time's off the pace. It's going to be tough. He's 1100. It's going to be like 18, 1900s down on the next clock.
Well, he and Neville Wright have really gelled in the 2-man this season. They've been very good. And for them to be only 5th fastest would be slightly disappointing, but it's a very short sprinter start area here. Power isn't so much of a key.
Neville Wright from Edmonton plays the bass guitar.
56.6, just a fraction off Francesco Friedrich's pace.
Good speed. He stopped the bleeding now. And it's the Springer. Oh, he doesn't have it there. 103.2 is excellent speed, same as Friedrich. Not as good as Polagnato. 27, 122.1 is not there.
0.2 miles an hour.
Top 3 though.
Yep. 3rd place, 1900s back. His teammate 1400s back. Francesco Friedrich still leads.
But his teammate beat him by 600 at the start and only 5 at the bottom.
Yep.
So Chris Spring outdrove his teammate Nick Polagnato.
And that big slide out to 9, I'm sure we'll see again. That's cost him probably about 1/10 of a second. So Chris Spring in 3rd place at the moment.
Oh, big skid, huh?
Big skid.
Big skid, no kidding. Yeah, it was.
At a 9.
Here it comes towards us.
Runner
you shouldn't
tips,
see
take a look
anything.
at the runner tips. Look at it. He's playing with him. He's trying to check him. Trying to get it back into control.
There's Neville Wright, the brakeman. And Chris Spring in the helmet. Nico Walter of Germany, 15th in the 2-man race here last year, but he won the season opener in Lake Placid and has not been lower than 9th in 2-man since. He's 3rd in our World Cup standings. Well, the FES sled that he's driving, identical to the ones that the German women went 1-2-3 in the European Championships with earlier today.
135 in the World Cup standings, but Nico's got to get off here. He's got to get off here at a, at 507, 506. 5:13. Well, hopefully the Christian Poser, the firefighter from Potsdam, can give him a good 50.5. It's better than Chris Spring.
Well, Nico was 15th last year. I think he's going to be probably something like 10 spots better than that this year.
2,200s down. Boy, was he late there.
Yes, he was.
He wasn't steering, but he didn't hit the wall, just flopped. 90.6 is pretty far back in the speed.
Yeah. Well, he was third on the splits. Now he's down to 5th position, chasing Brad Hall of Great Britain.
That's as good as it gets. 102.5 is not that good.
A half-mile an hour away still.
121.7 is considerably off the pace.
Getting closer, but 4,100's out. He's going to be 4th at the line.
3,600's back. We lost 10 hundredths to his teammate at the start. Friedrich.
He went out to 4,100s out of corner 9 and only 3,600s down at the line because of Friedrich's
at the
big
bottom.
error. Yeah, so Friedrich's got more pace that he can find by tidying up the second heat.
Not good speed now. The question is the speed gone out of the track? This is our 5th sled down. Remember, we had 41 women's sleds down a couple hours ago. And look at this. That's the latest line we've seen of anybody in the women's race or the men's race, but he didn't skid.
They had 3 days of training. There was 2 inches of snow on the track, so they don't know what this track is doing now for the 2-man race. Chances are on a clear day, they were all driving 4-man to try and get some clear 4-man runs in. Next up, Justin Olsen of the USA and Chris Vogt. Olsen, bronze medalist in the 2nd race in Lake Placid. And he is the 3rd ranked of the US crews.
4th in this event last year. Should be a good start. Low 5s. 509. Surprised at that. Really surprised that they didn't only have that. 50.6. A little bit better than average.
Yeah, that's medium speed.
1,800's back already. Well, he was 500's back, then a tap there.
Little late hang up off the wall there as well. Flopped off. Same as we saw from Chris Spring.
90.7 is barely better than
Still
Walter.
Top 3 run.
See what he can do at the bottom.
Now, if he comes down here straighter than Spring, he's just slipped a fraction behind the Canadian, but he should haul his way back into 3rd place. Down at the bottom of the track.
Speed's way off the mark. One of the worst speeds of the last 6-7 sleds. 5th
place, okay. So 400's behind Nico Walter of Germany. Normally you'd be pretty happy to take that.
Well, it was probably a 10th. Looks like a 10th place, I would think, by the time we're all said and done.
Yeah, a couple
Top
more
10.
good sleds still to come.
Surprised he didn't get a better start. 4th in this event last year with some superior start times. But he's got Chris Vogt on the back. He could have a choice of 2 or 3 different guys. Ooh, that tap up top. That's a 10th. Up there, 4-5. Then he flops off like Nico Walter.
Yep.
Then down here in the speed part of the track, watch the back
really
end.
hauled it off there.
Yeah.
He was late coming off on a crossover. Look at the amount he steers. Look, you see the runners really haul it off. Well, he got in late into the labyrinth, and it never gets better. Francesco Friedrich leads after the first 10 of our 21 sleds, heat 1 of the 2-man race in Innsbruck. Cody Basky of the USA, 11th of 21 starters. Sam McGuffey behind him in the 2-man sled. He took a bronze medal in the season opener in Lake Placid and then won the 2nd race on his home track.
They're going to need 5:10. So that's 700's back. That's going to get out to see what McGuffey's got for some speed here. 50.4, 2/10 of a kilometer less than his teammates. And now he's 2/10 back. Hopefully going to stop the bleeding. The next clock. Oh, he steered off there, it looked like. See if that costs him 2,800s. 90.8. A little bit better than his teammate. Not much.
6th place at the moment. He's battling with Justin Olsen. Now he pulls himself up to 4th on the splits. Good exit from 9. Little tap puts him on line for 10.
9 is a very good speed.
Good height out of 10.
Better speeds we've seen the last couple of sleds. 121.6.
Here we go. Could be top 3. He's in 4th on the splits at the moment. Chasing down Chris Spring.
4th.
Doesn't get him by about 900ths of a second.
Pretty good run.
Yeah.
Spring, he beat Spring by 400ths to start. Paulinato still in 2nd.
Yeah. Apollo is having a great time right now.
With the oldest guy in the competition on the back of his sled, Lascelles Brown. And the Kreisel, he's above that blue, but a lot of people bet on that blue, high blue, yeah.
And then you got to stop it dropping too early.
Yeah, this looks like a pretty good transition. Here it doesn't look like the same problems. Ooh.
Hold it off again.
You saw the upper runner pressure on that right front runner.
Just have left it a little later. Well, here's another man who's been having a great season. Canada's Justin Cripps. He's our World Cup points leader in the two-man. 5th in this race last year. He's got Jesse Lumsden on the brakes. 2 silver medals. Hasn't won a race, but has never been lower than 4th.
Well, let's see if they can get a 505, 506. 506, okay? Now the next, but that should be a 50.8. And remember, the best was 51.1 by Friedrich. There's 50.8, so he's online, and you know, he doesn't have the best track to work with, but clean. He's only got 700s down. That's a great sign. To me, that tells you Cripps could be the leader at the bottom.
Well, if he can stay within 700s of Friedrich down to the labyrinth, he will take the lead, because Friedrich gave it away there, but 1300s back, the gap grows.
But he stops the bleeding right there.
Yeah.
Now it's big speed, 102.9.
Nice run.
There it is.
Nice
he's got
run.
A chance here. The next thing is he's gonna need 122 kilometers. He's bringing it back. He's got the speed. This could be single digits. This could be second place.
Sled for Justin Cripps, 1100th back.
52 flat.
52 flat, Lyndon Rush. Exactly right, the driver coach for the Canadians. What a job the Canadians are doing this season. Canadian female skeleton sliders all jammed in the top 5 in the world. They took a silver and a bronze in yesterday's race. And the men's bobsleigh continues that, as does the women's. A little slip there by Justin just on the last step, maybe, or maybe it was just the way the slow-mo came in.
The guy with the best starts leading, the guy with the second best starts in second, the guy with the third best starts in third.
That's how the women's race worked out.
Of the Innsbruck track.
Yeah, absolutely.
Igls. The starters track.
It's a drag race. If you don't have the power from the line, it's going to be hard to find it. Oscar's Keeperman is next up. Mattis Miknes, his regular two-man brakeman, still in good form.
Well, at least he hasn't got the starts that he's been getting, you know, in the past. I think he's just, he wants to peak in February, because this young decathlete's just shown us a lot. 508's not bad.
Well, what he's done so far is position himself as the best Latvian sled, which means no matter how many or how few they take to the games, he's the #1.
8th in this race last year, but he was 2nd in the test in Pyeongchang, so good lines there. He's 4th at the moment, 2400s back, 90.8. It works.
Good exit off the Kreisel, down into turn 8.
Still bleeding, still 4th.
9 over the brow, down into 10. Good straight run, 102.9, 63.9 miles an hour.
Above 122 is good. There it is.
All right, so he's going to stay 4th or 5th. Will he be in front or behind Cody Basque? Just in front by 400ths of a second.
Yeah.
So he's 500ths behind Chris Spring, 400ths ahead of Cody Basque. There's room for another 3 or 4 sleds in there at least. So 13 sleds down. Oscar's Keepermanis lies in 5th position behind Francesco Friedrich and 3 Canadians, Cripps, Polignato and Spring. That doesn't make bad reading if you're a Canadian coach or fan, does it? 2nd, 3rd, 4th?
Put their hands on their hips. I mean, looks like they...
Well, 508, maybe Miknes wasn't happy with that. Here is Rico Peter of Switzerland. Thomas Amrine is on the brakes. And Thomas Lamparte, their physical conditioning coach, is here this week as well, looking after the guys. And the second of our Swiss sleds, who we'll get to in another 5 sleds time.
The reckless driver.
Switzerland's Beat Hefty won 4 two-man races in a row here, from 2009 to 2013. And he was in the silver medal behind Holcomb, bronze for the next 2 years after that.
Well, he doesn't like this track, and all you got to do is look at last year's results. 19th.
Yeah.
And with that start time, he's sentenced to probably around a top 10.
Doesn't really play to any of his strengths, this track, Rico Peter.
No, when he gets it, once you get it, it's like a golfer with a bad course or a bad hole. Once you get it in your mind, it's tough to get it out. Now he's gonna have the speeds. He can't make any mistakes. He's got to look at that skid there.
Yeah.
90.6 is pretty much. He's sentenced to top 10 right now. He's 11th. 12th is falling back more.
He's going to drop almost towards the tail of the field now.
102.3 is less than average speed.
12th place out of 14 so far. Is he going to be quick enough to make the cut? He'll be ahead of Bruce Tasker, or will he? At the line, yes. He finds it at the bottom to come into 10th place.
So that'll put him in the field.
That's when you get into the higher speed numbers, you know, 100 Ks plus, the Swiss sled starts to motor. Well, he was 12th place coming down. He's tied Brad Hall for 10th. Ahead of Roman Heinrich, the rookie.
You have a tie in the course?
Only one so far. So, we've had 14 sleds down.
Yeah, there flops out of the 4-5 combination, and look at the back end comes up as he gets into 6-7, and then there causes that skid. So his mistake that he made there caused way up in the exit of 5, and look where he is on the roof on 10.
Well, he beat a guy who's only in his 3rd World Cup race by 1/100th of a second. Rico Peter must be in his 6th or 7th World Cup season. Next up, Nick Cunningham of the USA, Hakeem Abdul-Sabur. Cunningham silver in the first race in Lake Placid. 4th in the second, just out of the medals. Then 11th and 18th in the last 2 races. And Abdul-Sabur in the 4-man race. I was talking to him on day after on Monday in Innsbruck. I have no idea how he got in the sled.
5:10, decent, better than average.
Yeah, 7th fastest start. That gives him a real shot here.
50.5 is average.
So at the moment, hovering around.
2/10 back. So next clock, Martin, if he keeps it less than 30, then he stopped the bleeding. He's got a chance getting the top 8.
Well, here's where the USA are. Cody Basque 6th. Currently, Cunningham 8th, Olsen 9th. And now he's up to 6th place. So he's challenging Cody Basque to be the better of the best of the Americans.
103 is some of the best speed we've seen in the last 8 sleds.
Cunningham
122.6 is on it, too.
Best ranked US driver in 2-man at the moment. Top 6 run from Nick Cunningham. He stopped the bleeding. Oh, and he jumped to 5th. Finds it at the bottom.
Only 200s away from spring. 300
great run
from Nick Cunningham.
Yeah, 7th fastest start, drives himself into 5th at the bottom.
Now Nick's just got to find a way.
Now this is, I believe, his last race on the World Cup. The plan at the moment is for him to stay in North America after Christmas.
You have to win all those races to qualify 3 sleds, but the way the U.S. is going here, he had great speed on the bottom. Top 4 speed, that's the reason he came back. Look at the transition here. Does the head slap? Little late, didn't steer.
No, didn't steer. That's where the speed comes. We saw it in the women's race. The braver and looser you are in the labyrinth, the better it goes. Oskars Melbardis, bronze medal winner in Whistler in the 2-man. Silver medal here last year. Francesco Friedrich is our current race leader. Melbardis 2 silvers in the last 2 World Cup races here.
Well, this is the start track, the track record holders at the start, excuse me, and they're not what they used to be. They're 1000s, 1200s off their track record at the start.
And 500s off Friedrich.
Yeah, they're 50.5 is, well, it's pretty equal to what Cunningham just did. So, I mean, Cunningham just showed there's top 5 speed left.
Yep.
And what can this dominant Latvian driver produce? Tap there. That's better than Cunningham by a couple hundredths.
Yep, 5th place at the moment on the split times.
6th now, that tap before Kreisel. Costly.
Decent run down, middle of the road for corner 10, which sends him up high on the pressure.
123.
121.7, that's not great.
Very good speed.
So 7th place, he might drop another one by the line, and he does. 8th place, just ahead of Nico Walter, 100th behind Cody Basque, who's 7th still. So that eases Justin Olsen out to 10th place. And at the bottom of the pile, Maxim Andrianov and Bruce Tasker.
First guy down the track was Andrianov.
But they started 15th, Andrianov, and 10th, Tasker, and then 16th out of 16, Roman Heinrich, who's 14th at the moment.
Here's this tap up top.
Yeah.
Just crucial to, I mean, just kills your time.
He got 10. Early in 10. Then he had to drive it off.
Too, you know, surprised at that. The size of Driskins.
Well, they're both, you know, dwarfs. Alexander Kazhinov of Russia and Alexei Pushkarev. Kazhinov really setting the world on fire in 4-man, and with Pushkarev behind him, should have a decent start here in the 2-man as well.
6th in this event last season. Gives up time at the start, but we all know he is a speed merchant on the bottom.
4th in Whistler, 6th in Winterberg, but 11th and 18th in Lake Placid. Really misfired at the start of the season in the 2-man.
See what their start, 10. Ooh, 19.
Alexei Pushkarev is a big, strong athlete, but he may not have sprinter's speed. What about the momentum, 31.3 miles an hour?
Well, he's going to have to be perfect. No, he has to come right down the middle of the track up here. No touching, he hasn't so far.
15th fastest start out of 17 sleds.
And the 91 speed is excellent for the deficient start time.
Yeah.
Anything above 102, this is competitive.
He might drive himself into the top 10 from here.
102.6, pretty awesome. If he gets this 123, 121.7, that's not. That's pretty much like the last sled that came down. So he's going to be sentenced to about 12 or 13, 11. Well, you know, when you start off with the 15th best start,
driving yourself into 11th is a good job.
Well, that's what he does.
Yep. Well, they've had a lot more speed in the start with all 4 men pushing. I wonder if Kazhinov's legs are starting to feel the pace at the moment.
Well, let's see what happens here, because he had no speed on the bottom, and the runners, a little check there, but didn't see any.
Seen a lot worse.
Did he get high there? Ooh,
yeah.
Ooh, but there's a lot of high lines there, including our race leader, Friedrich.
Polishing it up nicely now, right up by the woodwork. Alexei Pushkarev coming towards us. Well, here is the sensation of Winterberg, to say the very least about Klemens Brasher. It was his 2-man debut, and he won. In fact, he led both heats, and a lot of Swiss people were thinking, okay, he's going to crack under pressure. He didn't. He just went away from the field.
Well, the start time here, they don't get the great. Well, they did have great starts.
And really good starts. He's the fastest Swiss pusher.
5:10.
And Cronin, the fastest brakeman. 5:10 is 7th fastest. 700ths of a second away from the race leader.
50.6 is better than average. 1500ths is pretty good. Back, considering he got beat up by 900ths at the start. A little on the wrong side of that wall. 90.9 is not bad, not great. Wrong side of that exit. That's not good.
Big skid.
102.9 is above average.
The honeymoon might be over after Winterberg, but he's still... Oh, my goodness.
Almost.
Still in the top 4 off the 8th place start, and yeah, barring that wild moment, that would have been a 4th place run. Said to him after the race, jokingly last week, you need to quit now. 1 race, 1 win. Your 100% finishing record will never get better.
4th, 5th, and 6th. Yep. 19, 20, and 2100s. 300 separates those 3 sleds. And they're within the medals. Polonato's in 3rd.
Yep.
This did not help his efforts. This was probably worth 5. 121.7. He should have been up in the 122s. This is not steering. Not bad, though.
No.
Not a bad carve of the ice there. That was excellent right there.
First shot of it looked uglier than it was. Klemens Brasher, though, in a very strong top 5 position. Here's Johannes Lochner for Germany, with Joshua Bloom returning to the World Cup last week. He didn't race in North America. 16th in the 2-man race here last year, Johannes.
Mid 505, 504. maybe better.
Don't forget, 2 years ago in the two-man World Championship, he
508.
took the silver medal, so he can drive this track.
50.7.
And another Valna sled.
That's one of the second best speed.
It's going to be interesting to
Velocity.
compare. Yeah, second fastest only to teammate Friedrich in another Valna.
One thing is to push the sled with the fastest time at the 50-meter mark. The other thing is to get in and get around the first corner with the best velocity. He's got the second best velocity.
Yeah. Friedrich fastest at that spot as well.
1700's back. He's in fourth at the moment. But he's started late, and those are perfect lines. Let's see what this Walner sled's got on the bottom.
Little slower than Friedrich still. The gap is going out. 2400.
No speed here.
Fourth place.
Might drop a couple more. He's going to drop 7.
Yeah.
Boy, he had no speed at the bottom either. He went late. And he's within reach. I mean, he's...
Well, we just saw Clemens Braschi coming down only 300s quicker. Yeah, so
he's 900s from third. He's 400s from fourth.
yeah, from Cripps in second place, 2/10 takes us down to 11th place, or to 10th place, Oscars Melbardis.
Oh, it looks like he clipped the sled getting in there, and I don't know if that'll affect him.
Well, he's got legs like a giraffe, hasn't he? He's a long, lean athlete.
Joshua Blum squeezed his wide body in there. Now, let's see if we can see Joshua back there at all. No, he's buried perfect.
He was there, he got bumped up as they came off the corner, but yeah, no, his form is great. Hansi Lochner, there's the smile.
He is a wild child.
Bronze medalist last year, Benny Meyer, with Marcus Sammer behind him on the sled. Sammer, I think, will start to drive full-time, probably next season after the Games.
And this is the sled that won the World Championships last year, a Walner, and Friedrich's giving it up. Meyer, the Austrians jumped right on.
508, same start as Lochner.
It should be a 50.7 at least here.
Third fastest getaway.
7, that's what we expected. Now let's see how clean that Benny Meyer can do on a track that he finished third on last year.
At the beginning of the 2015-16 season, he was all ready to retire, and he was persuaded to give it one more chance in the Austrian trials. He brought a 4-man with 2 female push athletes, and from there, his resurgence has started.
He's a great lines, but he's got no speed left.
No.
102.3.
Third at the start, 8th on the splits, 11th on the splits. This is going as slowly for him as Christina Hengster. Well, no, because the last sled just came down within 0.2 of a second. He's now nearly 0.4 away. It hasn't gone away 1400s in one sled.
No, but both those sleds, I'm saying the track, both Lochner.
Yeah.
Lochner went early, Lochner being the top 3.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the track speed's gone. Look at the speeds, 121.4, 121.7. Nobody said 122.6 6 sleds ago. So,
well, Polignato came out 7th, and he's 6th fastest than the guy who came out 18th, 600s.
no, Polignato went out 60, what are we talking, 14, 15 sleds in here? I'm telling you, the track speeds have gone away. They should be up in the 122s. The German sled of Lochner, the last guy down, 122.6, I think, was Cunningham.
20 sleds down in our first of 2 heats, race 5 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. Francesco Friedrich is the leader. 20 sleds down, which means our second heat is complete, unless you can force somebody out. Dominik Dvorak of the Czech Republic is the first to try. Jakub Nosek, the brakeman. Big explosive start from Nosek on the back handles. Dvorak really coming of age last year in 2-man and 4-man.
Great start. He's a 100-meter sprinter.
That is all part of it, isn't it?
Great start, great looking sled, 50.6, better than average.
31.5 miles an hour, fastest 31.7 for Francesco Friedrich, who started 5:03.
So, no mistakes allowed. And Dvorak,
Dvorak was 13th last week in Winterberg.
better speed than Benny Meyer.
Top 6 run at the moment. And that's a great exit from 9 down to 10, 102.5, 63.7.
Can he get to 122? No, see, 121.2.
Yeah.
There's just no speed in the bottom left anymore.
So he's slipping out to 8th position, 9th, 11th. Yeah, he dropped down through the labyrinth, maybe being a little cautious, gets him in. Of course, if he let it go and it crashed, then he likely wouldn't make the second heat. So there are slightly different agendas, aren't there? When you start in danger of not making the cut, you've got to get in.
They're going for it. There's nobody, I'm going to be conservative on the bottom. They're going for it. There's just no speed left at the bottom part of the track.
Maxim Anjanov is out. Dominik Dvorak is in. That was wild.
Look at that. Airborne and then a quick adjustment. Look at the way the slide just bounces around that curve.
Yeah.
Pretty good, this Czech pilot, though.
Yeah, he's definitely come of age. So Dvorak is in, Anjanov is out, Bruce Tasker's on the bubble, as Rudy Rinaldi and Boris Vian come to the line. And they were going very quickly indeed in training, so this is real danger for Great Britain's Bruce Tasker. Just gives the sled a little pat. Come on, baby, don't let me down. He's got the Steve Holcomb Superman logo on the helmet. An awful lot of people are carrying that logo.
Big boss on the back. And when I say big, let me just reinforce that. He is a big boy.
See this.
22nd best start. This is going to be pretty difficult for the amount of guests to get into the field with that type of start. Surprised. They were better than that. But Rudy's been nursing injuries, hasn't been able to train much. Pretty clean up here. 90.6 is not bad considering the start velocity that they had. 6/10 down, he's hanging in there.
Still 22nd though. Oh, and I'm afraid that's not happening at all.
102.9 is a great speed. If he can get to 121 and change, yeah, this is pretty good. Well, that speed at the bottom.
Gonna have to find it in the labyrinth because he was 22nd at the last clock and he stays in 22nd spot.
Bruno Marjan looks on there. Aren't gonna like that. The start got them.
Well, at the moment, Bruce Tasker with 20th spot. And what was the time that he set? 52.39, and we guessed that maybe 52.30 might be the cutoff.
Well, it's about, look at the size of the guy in the back. Look at his arms, look at the technique, head down, arms up together, in and down. Just wasn't fast in that first 50 meters, and then here, this probably sentenced him to the 22nd spot.
Yep.
There was 10/100ths there. 10/100ths better, he would have been up challenging Tasker for 20th. He's not happy.
No. Disappointment for Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco.
I think he's been injured.
Next to the line is Russia's Alexei Stulnev, 17th last year in a field of 30-plus sleds. Should make the cut, but should and does may not be the same thing. Bruce Tasker on the bubble in 20th.
He's been in a slump, Stulnev. He was in the top 6 last year in World Cup points, and the reason he's in the slump is the start.
Yeah. And that 5:22, 21st sled out of 23.
12th last week in Wittenberg, 9th in Whistler, 20th in Lake Placid in the second race, and first race 18th.
Yeah, had a tough time in Lake Placid. In the race at the moment, ahead of Bruce Tasker of Great Britain, he's in 20th spot. This is going to be close.
Well, he's got Russian eyes and hands there, good speed. There's our first 102 speed in 9 sleds.
Yeah.
So that
19th place. Okay, he's in the race at the moment, and Tasker is out. So he'll have at least one behind him, 17th. Okay, that should see him safe. Stulnev is in, but I'm not sure what the Russian for by the skin of his teeth is, but that's what it was.
Yeah, remember the Germans stopping the sled right there at the exit?
Yeah. Well, that's because they feather it before the right-hander into the finish area.
It's more than that. It's more than that.
Well, either that or there.
I'm sure that somebody said to the Russians, you see where the Germans start? No one else does it, period. Look at this. Airborne. And that big, well, he doesn't really steer too much.
Well, you don't steer, no, you just get thrown up by the corner there.
He just didn't steer. That's why he was pretty quick on the bottom. Veteran pilot.
So runners are going forward, then it'll help carry the speed. 3 to go. First up, Maciej Luty of Poland, Krzysztof Tarkowski behind him. Junior world champion sprinter Tarkowski. Luthi didn't do the North American races, so his first two-man World Cup race was last week, 15th in Winterberg. Oh, but luckily it's a long straight run down into the first corner. You can miss the D-rings and get away with it.
Gotta hurt his velocity.
Yeah.
50 flat, 49.9. That's sub-average.
19th at the start. It's him or Roman Heinrich of France, and he's out to 22nd place.
Well, when you start 19th and had that mishap going into that first curve.
20 seconds still on the splits. I think Roman Heinrich might be safe for one more sled. Good line from Luthi though, 9 to 10.
Good speed. If he gets 121.7, he might have a chance. Now he's low 122, which is 75.8 miles an hour.
And across the line, 23rd, so he lost another spot.
I like it when coaches really show what they really think.
Well, he was a 10th slower than the last sled, Alexei Stulnev. Stulnev finished in a three-way tie for 17th. Luthi is 6 spots further back, 10th of a second.
Just a 10th.
So we got a three-way tie for 17th. Brad Hall, Alexei Stulnev, and Rico Pater, and then 20th, Roman Heinrich.
Must hit his foot. Look, look at the runners.
Yeah.
So he hit his foot on the D-rings. That's what cost him. Look at that. I haven't seen that too often. Usually they run right into the wall when they do that. So somehow he kept it off the wall, but in the retrospect, he might as well hit the wall.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
2 to go. Hugo Salims and Ivo de Bruyne of the Netherlands. So this is Hugo Salims of Latvia with Davis Springis on the brakes. Salims currently rated as the 3rd of the Latvians in two-man. Best season's result, 11th place last week in Winterberg.
9th in this race last year.
Oh, and that really puts on the brakes.
Yeah, see what the velocity speed is down here, how much it cost him, 49.3. One of the worst speeds we've seen of all the sleds that came down.
Wow.
And they had the 16th best start. So
16th best start, but that drag of the brake handle on the walls dropped him to 24th in the field. 25th, he's now last.
That's called like throwing out a parachute.
11th last week, last now, 25th of 25 sleds.
You think it's easy? Look at that. That's not a good line. But you think it's easy just jumping in these things going at 20, 25 miles an hour?
Yeah.
You take it for granted.
I don't think he's even going to get the better of Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco, who was really disappointed with a bit of a wretched run. No, 25th. Well, he doesn't make the cut either. Last sled came down 52.47. He's just come down 52.74. I mean, they may as well almost have jumped. Look at what damage it's done to the handle.
Yeah, look at that.
It just bent that bar all the way back.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's aerodynamics, too.
Well, now, he hits a little button under the cowl, and it brings the brake handle down, but it's dragging along the wall.
Jeez, look at those pictures.
That is an anchor, a literal anchor.
Yeah. That's why he had the worst speed after curve 1. And then the rest of the run is just a passenger ride down the track after that mishap. Look at the anguish on his face.
He's going to have to come back tomorrow and try again in the four-man.
Better than that.
Well, that's what a brake handle looks like, drilled to allow the air to go through it on the Eurotech sled of Ivo de Bruyne. Bro van der Zijde on the brakes, returning to the Dutch camp this season. 23rd in the World Cup rankings. Ivo made the cut in the first race in Lake Placid and in race 3 in Whistler.
Well, with the 26th best start time, somehow
it's going to be tough to make it from here. Really is.
5.
Second slowest start was Rudy Rinaldi at 5:25, and Rinaldi is currently 24th of the 26 sleds. That is the 26th start of 26. And John, there's just no ice, there's not enough corners to be able to make an advantage if you don't have it at the start.
Yeah. Seeing some shoulders from...
Well, Broad's 6'6" or something, isn't he? So it's almost impossible to miss him.
Not bad lines. He's wife, Christina De Bruyne, did pretty good this morning.
Yeah.
Top 10, top 8.
All three Canadian women's sleds had a good day. 1 second behind, a 52.89. He's 26. He doesn't make the cut. And so Roman Heinrich of Great Britain, of France, hangs on. He is 20th and will make the field. Bruce Tasker of Great Britain, 100th out of the... Yeah, it's always the 100th here, you know. Andrinov, 200s out. And behind them, Luti, Rinaldi, Zalims, and De Bruyne, and Ivo trying to let it fly down at the bottom.
You know, nothing wrong with the drive, just when you have the worst start time.
Yeah, I'm surprised Ivo and Braw aren't finding a little bit more pace at the start, and that's certainly something that needs dramatic attention.
Well, guess who's in the lead?
Well, the man with start number 1 is Francesco Friedrich. He leads. The second fastest starter, Justin Cripps, and the 4th fastest starter, Nick Polagnato, lies in third.
First time this season in 10 heats that he's won a heat. And look at these lines. This looked like the worst line we've seen in 11, 12, 13 in the finish curve.
Yep.
And he stops the sled immediately.
He nearly binned it there, didn't he? He really did.
Didn't have speed in the bottom.
No.
But guess what?
He's still the leader, and he might more than double that in the second heat. Justin Cripps, Nick Polagnato, Chris Spring. 2-3-4 for Canada. Clemens Brasher, last week's surprise winner, in 5th. Nick Cunningham, the best of the US sleds, again in 6th spot, ahead of Lochner, Kibermanis, Bascu, and Mel Bardis. And the 3rd German sled, Nico Walter, in 13th position. And Justin Cripps, Chris Spring, our top 2 in the World Cup, both in with a shot at the medals here, as is their teammate Nick Polagnato. Well, below Roman Heinrich of France, the remaining 6 sleds don't get to go again. They'll be watching Heat 2, and you can too. Join us here in Innsbruck at 1500 local time, 1400 Greenwich Mean Time, for the second and deciding heat of the 2-man race.